I have mixed feelings about everything that happened with Heartland being cancelled, because all this time, we've been asking for new content in Division 2, but only getting manhunts that we all know doesn't bring much replay value. The developers had Heartland cooking the entire time, and after finding out the news that it's actually been cancelled, Ryan Smith, one of the developers working on Heartland, reveals this on X. I was a part of the small team that started this in 2019. That was 2 years after the Division 2 was released. Was originally meant to be a low-risk battle royale mode for the Division 2. It had a pretty clear plan and was going well, but Ubi and Redstorm had other ideas and it changed drastically. Sad it won't ever see the light of day. Now, we're not going to know exactly what other plans they had for it, but I have my own speculation as to why it all went haywire. And from reading this tweet, it seems like the developers knew how much we loved the famous survival mode from the original Division, so they were actually trying to bring something like that to the Division 2, which would have been an awesome idea. Why didn't they do this? Well, let's dive into it, because Heartland being added as a separate game mode would have been a very great addition to the game in terms of replay value and player retention. Because in the comment section of every video that I upload, players are talking about how dead the game is, how much we need new content. The fact is, it doesn't matter what the developers do, what they add, people are always going to keep asking for new content over and over again. That's just the nature of human beings and gamers in general. But let me quickly tell you why I think that everything went haywire when the developers had new plans or different plans, even though Ryan said everything was going pretty good and had a clear plan. Well, around that time, 2019, was a massive era of battle royales, free to play, by the way, battle royales where you extraction shooters like Fortnite, Apex Legends, games like that, where everybody was playing those games. So I think that during the development of Heartland, they're like, hey, we can make this an entire game in and of itself, which was a mistake. Okay, that was a mistake, because now it just ended up dragging it along. You kept trying to push the needle, trying to figure out how you could change it and figure out how to make it like Apex or like these other games. The fact is, the Division 2, the Division in general, is different from those types of games. You have builds, you have an RPG element. It's a unique game, which is what separates it from so many other games, and it's why a lot of players love the Division in general, and it's why you have such a cult following. Don't try and change the game because of what's happening out in the world. Sure, you could have made an extraction shooter, but keep it the way it is and people will play it, and it could actually evolve into something completely different, maybe better. But let's think about how this would have been if they added it as a game mode to the Division 2. As I said before, the developers knew how much we love survival. When that mode came out on Division 1, it added so much more replay value to the game. It probably added on to about 2 years more of gameplay, because people would log on just to play survival. I mean, when I first went into survival, actually when I first saw the trailer, it was crazy. I was like, yes, because you already have the setting of the snow and the ominous atmosphere at night where you see chungas walking in the distance with that flashing light, or you trying to escape in the store from some Rikers, whatever. It just gave you this intense feeling, just simply being in there, starting out with nothing but a pistol, and then being able to go into these safe houses to craft new materials, to craft new weapons and gear, craft skills. It was just the perfect game mode. You know what the great thing about it was, because you know how most people play PvE. That was the case in Division 1 as well. A lot of people played PvE, more so in Division 2, but the great thing about survival was that you can play PvE only or PvEVP. You didn't have to go in there like the Dark Zone and force yourself to be subjected to getting jumped. You could play PvE only, and survival was so sweaty that it didn't even matter if you played PvE only. You still got that adrenaline rush as if you were playing against other players, because when you had to extract, you encountered hunters and you had to get out. Another great appeal to survival was the fact that it had gear exclusive to that mode. I said this a couple times before, but for a certain amount of time you can only get the Urban MDR exotic rifle with distracted talent from survival caches. And even if you had 5 caches, it wasn't guaranteed that you'd get the Urban MDR. So even in that, there was RNG, which made you keep coming back over and over again. Whatever you got from survival, you can keep and add to your build arsenal to create new builds. The gear and weapons were better and higher rolled. And it's not like the DZ, it's not like Conflict. It's an entire different beast. And so thinking of all of this in relation to Heartland and what they could have done, it would have revolutionized the game. I think survival came in a little bit later, like 4 years later after the Division 1 came out. And they were planning on releasing Heartland as a separate game mode for Division 2 2 years after it was released. So they knew what we wanted and they were actually working on it. But we didn't know until now that it was intended to be a separate game mode for Division 2. So if you look at Heartland, if you played it, you understand what I'm talking about. But if you didn't play it, if you look at Heartland, it's a summer setting, because in Division 1, it was a winter setting. So they wanted to embody that perspective where they had the night blizzards, the cold. So in Heartland, they would have similar settings for that game for the summertime. You got this virus, and you know that naturally, when there's a virus, cold kills it, right? But heat spreads it faster with the humidity and everything else. So the virus was kind of like the storm from survival in Division 1. They had hunters, they had rogue agents, and they would spawn randomly sometimes. Now, when I played, I got a similar adrenaline rush, almost like how it was in survival, because I played with some other content creators and we were actually going against other players. We had to really survive. When I ran out of med kits, somebody would share it with me. We went to the hospital to find resources there, other places around Silver Creek. So the game would have been the perfect addition to Division 2, and it was a mistake that they did not do that, and I don't know why they didn't. So here are my final thoughts, okay? And I want you to chime down below to let me know what you think about all of this. But I posted on X and I said maybe it's a good thing that they canceled Heartland, because they could use those resources for the Division 3. It's already been announced. Julie and Garrity said they're putting a team together. And excuse my voice, I just got off work and I wanted to get this out. But anyways, resources that were taken away from Heartland can be put into the Division 3. XDefiant is already finished. It's coming out on the 21st. You could preload it, and when it comes out, everybody's going to be able to play it. So that game is finished developed. Avatar is not being worked on. Star Wars is not really being worked on. Rainbow Six, they're probably going to add some new updates to that game. But ultimately, I believe, and I'm being optimistic here, that Division 3 is going to be the center point of focus going forward. 2026 is my speculation date. And what they need to do is, before the game comes out, make sure you add another mode like survival, like Heartland, into the Division 3 so we can have that out the gate. So many players requested that we had survival from the beginning because it was so great. Everything is being put into perspective. I get it now. I understand what they were doing, and it was a mistake, but we learn from mistakes, right? Anyway, let me know what you think about this down below in the comment section. Like the video if you like this conversation, and subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I'll see you in the next one. Be right out.